Hi friends, welcome back to this tutorial series. This is the part 15 of this series, and in this part we will be working on the authentication, user authentication. So for that, I have already opened the auth service and auth controller here, and let me close the post controller and the post service. So these are the default methods that come with the CLI. So I'm gonna remove all of these, and similarly I'm gonna remove all these endpoints as well. So we have an empty controller and an empty service. Okay, so before we write any code, we first have to install certain packages. So if we just head back to the official docs under the authentication section, we see that we have to install the Nest.js passport package and the passport uh, package itself, and also the types here. So let's quickly do that. I'll go back to my IDE terminal, paste the code here, and also I'll need this for the development dependencies. After that, I will not be using the local strategy here. Instead, I will be using the JWT strategy. So if you just scroll down a little bit, you will have the JWT functionality section. So here we have to install this package, and the types, of course, for the development purposes. Once we do that, we have to import the module, the passport module and the JWT module in our auth module here under the imports array. So let's quickly do that. We'll first import the JWT module and use the register method here. This would take certain options. First one is the secret key. I'll enter secret key here, but in the actual production environment, make sure this key should not be guessable. So you can use a random string in this particular secret key. And under the sign options, I'll define the algorithm that will be HS512, and so and the expires in, that's the time, I'll say 1 day. Okay, that is a duration or expiration of my JWT. Ideally you should keep it very low, like few hours, maybe couple of hours, but this is for testing. So in the development I am keeping it for 1 day. Next is our passport module, and again use the register method here. I'll use the default strategy as JWT. Okay, so once that is done, save the changes, make sure your terminal is running or the server. And now in our auth service, I'm gonna define an async function for login. Okay, so this login method would take a DTO. So this is update user DTO, create user DTO. We would have another DTO here. Let me create a new file, user login dot DTO. Okay, so in this DTO we would have a class. Okay, and the properties will be email, string, and the password string. So I'll decorate them as a string and is not empty, so both of them are needed. Save the changes, and here I'll say login DTO is of type user login DTO. Okay. And after that, since we have the password select set to false, if I just go back to the user entity, you see I set it to false. So I will not be getting the user password if I perform a query to the database. So let me fetch the user. So const user is equals to, and before I can do that, I have to inject my repository. So I'll use inject repository, and I will use the user entity here. So we'll give it a name repo of type repository, and it will be of type user. So same method. So now we'll use await this dot repo, and we'll not be using the find or any of these methods here, because none of these methods will help us getting the password. So instead we would again utilize the create query builder, and for this I'll give it an alias of user, and then I'll chain a method called add select. So this will add certain properties that we want to include in the request. So what we want is the user.password, which we earlier omitted. Okay, so let me put this in the next line. So this is just for your convenience. Okay, will not change the actual code. And then we have to use a where statement. So user.email equals to a placeholder, and the value of this email will come from login DTO dot email. Simple, right? So, and of course you have to chain get one method, otherwise this query will never be executed. So get one is to get one entry, and get many is to get an array of entries. So now once you have done that, then let's check if the user is found or not. So if the user is not found, I'll say throw new unauthorized exception bad credentials. So I'll not tell the user or the person whether he has entered a bad username or a bad password, because that will give him a hint whether he should be brute forcing the username or the password, which I don't want. So in the else block here, so if the user is found, I have to verify that the supplied password hash is matching with the password hash in database. Okay, for that I'll go ahead and create a new method here. That will be again async method verify password. So this will take a password of type string and a hash of type string. Compare. Okay, and to compare, I'll again use the bcrypt package, using which I encrypted the password. So from bcrypt js, so here I'll simply use return await bcrypt dot compare. So bcrypt has a compare method. So this takes the password I provided from the front end and the hash that is there. So if both of them match, then it will return true, otherwise return false. So I'll use this method here in my else block. So if await this dot verify password, so my password is coming from the login DTO, so I'll use that. and I'll compare with user.password. Okay, so this will only work if you have added the user password using the query builder. Otherwise, this would be null and this check would always fail. So once this is done, if it's true, then I'll generate a token. And for that, when to generate the token, I need to inject the JWT service from JWT service, and this is imported from Nest.js JWT. So let's use this.jwt service dot sign async, and let's give it a payload. And in the payload, I'll give email, which will have the value of user.email and ID user.id. You can have anything in the payload, but make sure you don't supply any confidential information there, because this payload can be easily decoded using online tools. Okay, and after that, I'll simply delete the user password from the user object that I fetched, and I'll return the token and the user to the front end, or whosoever is requesting it. And if this is failing, so this is the else block of this if statement. If that fails, I'll again simply throw an error here. Okay, an exception. So this is all about the login function here. Now we have to go to the auth controller and create a post endpoint. Will be user login. Okay, and this would get the details or the values of the email and password from the body. So this will be of type user login DTO, of type user login DTO. Okay, and also here inside this call, I'll inject the response object from Nest.js common, and this will be of type response, and make sure you import it from Express. Okay, import response from Express. Okay, because we will be sending this JWT in the form of HTTP only cookie. We don't want to send it in raw body and store it somewhere in local storage for security reasons. So we will be using HTTP cookies. All right. So first of all, let's quickly destructure the token and the user from the login request. So we are sending token and user. So here I'll simply pass in the email and user login DTO.password, and this has to be async, of course. Or I can simply I don't need to send the email and password separately, because this is my user login DTO. So I'll simply pass that here, and from there I'll get a response, and that response will have the token and the user. Okay, now once I have that, this is my body. So I'll simply use the res variable here and use the cookie method here. I'll give it a name. So let's say is authenticated, and give it a value of true. And then I'll say max age of let's say 2 multiplied by 60 to 60 into 1000. So this is for 2 hours. Okay, max age 2 hours. And also I'll create another cookie named authentication, and this will contain the authentication cookie will contain my token as the value. and I'll make this as HTTP only to true. This is not HTTP cookie. This is a normal cookie which can be read by the JavaScript in the front end. Okay, and I kept that intentionally there. So next, I'll keep the same max age for the authentication cookie as well. And then once those two are there, I'll simply send or return it, return press dot send, and I'll say success true and the user. Okay, so my client, my Postman client will get this as the response with the user object, and it will automatically get a cookie which it will store, and these cookies are automatically forwarded with each request. Okay, so now let's give it a try. I go back to my Postman client. I create, let me copy this. Okay, so here I'll give it a name. So name is login, the path, I mean, so it's auth/login. Save the changes, see the terminal, there should not be any errors. Go back to Postman, create a new request, post, and this time it's not post, it's auth/login. And let's say if I don't send anything, it says bad credentials. Okay, so now I say email and password, both are there but both are empty. Bad credentials. So my user is s@s.com. Hit enter, still bad credentials. I give it a wrong password 12345 and hit enter, wrong credentials. And if I give it a valid email and password and hit send, okay, I still get bad credentials. So let's see what's happening here. So let's quickly see what do we get. So I think we are not getting the data. Let me just quickly do a console log here or user login DTO. Let's see if we get any information there. So I hit send. I check my console. Yes, I'm getting email and password. That's fine. And now it should be forwarded here. Let's see what do we get here. Login DTO. Save, and I'll remove it from here. Save the changes. Hit restart. Now let's hit send. Yeah. Send. Okay, I'm still getting it, but somehow, let's see if we are getting the user or not. So in my auth service, this is the way you should always troubleshoot. So log user and restart, hit send. Yep, I'm getting the user. And why is it throwing bad credentials? So I'll make a little change. User not found, and here it will be password mismatch. Let's see which one is that. Send. It's pass mismatch. Okay. Okay, the reason is that my password is 123456 in the database. It was never encrypted. All right. So let me go ahead and create a new user here. Okay. Let's first create a method for registration. All right. And we will then see how we can I mean this method works or not, because right now our password is never hashed because we never we never called this particular event listener or hook during the creation of this user, because we created it directly in the database, and that's why I told you not to create any entry directly in the database, because this password is not matching, is not a valid hash basically. So let's stop here. Okay, we know our method is working, we are able to fetch the user. However, since this verify password method is failing, therefore we are not able to authenticate at this moment, but we will do that in the next video when we finish or finish the registration part here in the auth controller as well as in the auth service. Then we'll register a new user and probably delete Super Mario and re-register that user again. So once we do that, then it should be working and we should be getting a token and a success response. So let me know if you have any doubts till now. If you are stuck somewhere, if you have any suggestions, any complaints, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, have fun and happy learning. Bye bye.